Hello and welcome back to the 52 Sunday Dinners Project. Today we are at week 22 of the 52 Sunday Dinners, where we're taking this cookbook right here, the 52 Sunday Dinners cookbook from Women's World magazine, published in 1924. They had menus for every Sunday, where they went with several courses for 6 people with economy and seasonality in mind. If this is your first time watching, welcome. My name is Ashley. I love everything food and everything vintage. We're combining those two things to bring you this project here, where we're attempting just about every recipe each week in this book. This week, here's what we're going to try out. To start with, we'll have a cream of veal soup with rice. Then we'll have radishes and olives. For our main course, we'll have spring lamb chops broiled. On the side, there'll be candied sweet potatoes and stuffed tomatoes. For our salad, we'll have shredded lettuce with French dressing. And then for dessert, we'll have little individual strawberry shortcakes. Of course, we'll also have coffee. Now, we've tried some of these things before already, like our sweet potatoes. I believe we've had maybe in the beginning of this project. And if this is not your first time, remember we started at week 31. So we only have just a few of these left to go. But along with those sweet potatoes, we've also made the French dressing several times for our salad. Everything else I'm pretty sure is new to us though. So let's go ahead, get into the kitchen, and let's see how this turns out. For our veal knuckle soup, if you remember from a few weeks ago, we ended up ordering our veal online from Vincent's Meat Market. So we have our knuckle here that I pulled out of the freezer, and we're gonna go ahead and get it into this cold water. Look at that beautiful knuckle bone. There's so much marrow inside of there. And the rice. Tell me, is this rice to absorb some of the fat? What is the purpose of that rice in this soup? And our salt. All right, we're boiling. Let's bring it down to a simmer. We have our parsley to put in here, and we're just gonna simmer this for 4 hours. So we'll see you in about 4 hours. It's been 4 hours. And we need to strain this soup. Oh my, that is just falling apart. I can't imagine that 4-hour boiled or simmered meat tastes very good, but we'll find something to do with this meat later. We'll definitely be using this for a bone broth. We have our 2 cups of milk. Right, add to that olive juice and canned mushrooms. Now, again, weird that we're adding the mushrooms and then we're going to strain this again, but you know, I guess we're just getting the flavor in there. All right, let's get this strained. Don't worry, we'll use these mushrooms for something else. We're not just throwing them away. Now, these strawberries are certainly large, especially compared to what they may have had in 1924. Even this one might even be considered large in 1924 standards, even though it's probably considered a little smaller to our 2024 standards. So I'm going to either halve or maybe even quarter, or this one we might do in 6s. I'm not quite sure, but certainly I think these are all pretty big. We've talked about this before, maybe. I know I'm supposed to be following these recipes, but this is a quart of strawberries. I only have just under 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar here because it just seems like way too much sugar to even taste good. I don't know. Maybe you know, we've also talked about, I think the strawberries back then would have been sweeter and tastier. So I don't know. I don't know why all the sugar for this, but maybe to make it better or fancier. It's just an awful lot of sugar compared to strawberries here. There's been a lot of strawberry shortcake type desserts recently, and now we're actually going to get the strawberry shortcake biscuit that we've been talking about. So I have everything in here. It's been sifted together, all the dry ingredients. I have our butter here, our 2 tablespoons. We're going to go ahead and rub this in. Then we'll add our milk and start rolling it out. All right, there's 1 cup of milk in. I think we're going to need a little more than 1 cup. We have our biscuit dough here and a floured surface. Hopefully this is going to turn out right. The dough actually doesn't feel too bad. It's a little bit wet, I think. And we've talked about this with the gluten-free doughs. Sometimes it takes them just a little bit longer to absorb the moisture in this. So if it doesn't roll out well, what I think we'll do is just let it sit here in this ball and absorb some of that moisture, but let's try to get it rolled out first. All right, I don't know if this is 3/4 of an inch. I bet it isn't. Let's get a little measuring tape here. Okay, that was only like 1/4 of an inch. Let's try that again. Oh. 3/4 of an inch. Is that what that said? I think this is as close as we're going to get to 3/4 of an inch without doing too much. This one. At first I was concerned as we were rolling those out to get to 3/4 of an inch that we wouldn't have enough, but I think we have more than 6. I think we're going to be okay. Now we're just putting them here on our little tray. It says make sure not to let them touch. Now we have to break them in half and butter them. I should do this with a fork, I think. Ooh, crumbs flying everywhere. It's a nice line across where you can see where it wants to be breaking. So that works out nicely. A lot of crumbs falling. The steam is coming out. All right, there we have what's inside. Let's get these buttered. It'll be really good, I bet, with these strawberry, in little individual strawberry shortcakes. Buttered is that mousse, the strawberry mousse we made the other week with the whipped cream and the strawberries. Oh, that would be delicious in here. There's layer 1, press side down, butter the top layer, put that, press side up, I think. I hope that was right. On top, and then berries on top of that, and then we pour cream on top of all of this. I'm feeling this is going to be so delicious. Double check, make sure this still smells okay. Yes. There we go. That looks so yummy. I need to do 1/2 inch thick slices here. And what's 1/2 inch? I don't know. Something like that. I don't know if I should keep it like this or if I should cut it into actual strips like. know, I kind of like the idea. I don't remember what we did last time, but I kind of like the idea of having this little potato steak served to me. So I think we'll keep it like that. We're going to need something bigger than this, I think. What do you think? No, we could stack them. I think we could stack them. Yeah. I have a layer under here. I did a first layer with butter and cinnamon and sugar, and now we'll do the second layer with the butter and the cinnamon and sugar. Spoonfuls of boiling water, and then into the oven it goes. We have our tomatoes here, and though in Pennsylvania it's not quite tomato season yet, hopefully with stuffing and baking these it'll bring the flavor out a little bit, or at least help flavor it up slightly, because I believe these are probably hothouse tomatoes. I'm gonna scoop the middle out of here, and hopefully I don't break the rest of it. Okay, let's get the rest of these done. Set it there to drain and get the rest of them done. We have our onions to add in. I always like a little extra onion in there. All right, equal part, whoop, oopsie poopsie, cracker crumbs. That looks about right. Now I'm not seasoning and buttering these because they are pre-seasoned already, as we've talked about several times before. So I think we're good here. We're just gonna mix all this pulp up in with these crumbs and onions. Get these tomatoes stuffed again. I think we'll have some leftover stuffing here. What should we do with all the leftover stuffing? What do you think? So this one is interesting, and maybe this is something that people do often and it's common, but when it says to cut halfway down and it wants it to look like a flower, I assume we're supposed to make it like flower petals kind of, and slice from here halfway down so it curls out like petals. I assume, I hope I'm assuming correctly, and not like halfway down like this, or I don't know. I'm gonna cut petals, I think, or my attempt at petals. Halfway. And I don't know if you can see the lines there are cut. And then it wants us to peel it away from the white. I don't know how to do that. It says peel it away from the white, right? Peel away from the white. Cut this. Loosen from the white skin. Are we supposed to loosen the whole thing from the white skin? Like, no, I don't think so. Maybe just at the top loosen it so it starts. Ooh, I'm messing this up. Okay, I'm just kind of taking where the pink is and pulling back to try and loosen a little bit, but I'm not sure if that's correct or not. Because if I try and loosen it the whole way, or like all the way halfway down, it is kind of just breaking. Maybe I need to make smaller petals. Oh wait, here we go. Ooh, it's breaking, but this is a good practice one. Okay, like that. And then peeling some more to loosen. So that looks pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna try this with a few more, making the petals maybe a little smaller. Maybe that will help. And I'll be right back with you and show you what we've done. I've gotten a few of these done and I keep running into the same problem. I'll cut a little, slice down, and I'll start trying to loosen it, and then it'll just come off. So I don't know if I need to be a little more gentle, if I'm cutting too deep, not deep enough. I'm not sure, but I will tell you, they remind me of something out of like a Mario video game or something. I don't know, pretty interesting. One thing I really like about this recipe is the suggestion to use the fat for toilet soap. I think that's just a really cool suggestion out of a cookbook. I know that, I mean, even today people use tallow and animal fat to make soaps. But to have it in this recipe just seems kind of fun. Now, they've done most of the work for us at this point. We don't have to do all the scraping and everything. So we have just these right here. We're gonna put right on our pan, stick it right in the broiler. All right, who's ready to see how all of this turned out? My kitchen smells very much like lamb at the moment. We've, kind of talked about that, just the differences in the smells and tastes of the things that we're used to or not used to. Lamb is something I'm still getting used to at this point. I know it's been almost a year that we've been doing this, and lamb has come up several times in that year, and I'm still not quite used to it yet, but we're getting there. The veal soup here. Now, this is our starter. It smells, I smell more mushroom than anything else. I thought I would actually smell the beef a little bit more, the veal, but I certainly smell the mushrooms much more than I smell anything else. Now, it says with rice in the menu, but it told us to drain all of this. So I don't know if we were supposed to make some rice separately and put it together with the soup, but I do know the rice that we put in there, we boiled it or simmered it for 4 hours. That rice was not really the texture of rice that you'd want to be eating, I don't think. So I'm not sure, maybe it's just the flavor of the rice that's supposed to be in there. Maybe we were supposed to make it separately and put it in. I'm not really sure. But the way we made it, let's give it a try. There is not as much flavor in this as I expected. With the mushroom and the onion juice and the beef and the cream, I really thought this would be kind of packed with some really interesting flavors, and honestly, it's very mild, I'd say. It's more of a suggested flavor, I guess. It's not bad. It's certainly not bad. It just is. It tastes like it smells a little bit, and I think I was having a hard time smelling something distinctive coming out of this, and it just really is more of a kind of a whisper of a flavor. Now, some of the other things we have coming up are a little bit more flavorful, so maybe that's why we're starting off with this. That's a little bit less. Next, after this, we have our olives and radishes. Those are both very kind of strong, pungent flavors. Then we move on to lamb chops with baked tomatoes and sweet potatoes. Our lamb, very distinctive, and our tomatoes, very acidic. So, this soup is more of that kind of, I guess, that bland suggestion of a flavor at the beginning. So yeah, very, very surprising to me, but not bad. Next we have our olives and radishes. Now, maybe those are supposed to just be garnishes or something. Maybe you're supposed to have just a few bites throughout, but I'll let you see how this radish turned. There wasn't really a lot of curling, but It is kind of cute, I think. And I wasn't sure whether to go with black or green olives in what I thought they would have in the 1920s. So pimentos were pretty popular, so we went with the green olives stuffed with pimentos. I love olives, any type. So yeah, that's a win for me. Radishes are not my favorite raw. My dear friend Mimi, who I used to work with, she would munch on raw radishes all the time at lunch or maybe throughout her day. And I could not wrap my head around that, but I've recently started eating them roasted, and I think they're fantastic that way. But I'm gonna go ahead and just take a little bite of this flour for the sake of it. I don't love them. They're not my favorite, but I don't dislike them as much as I remember disliking them. I like the little spice there at the end, but I do certainly prefer them roasted. Let's see how our main course menu items go. We have our lamb there, our sweet potato, and our tomato. First thing I want to get into is this lamb. Okay, and it looks like I have this cooked maybe to about a medium. I'll let you see in there. I wasn't quite sure exactly how far I should cook it, or under the broiler how long I should cook it. So this isn't, probably I would like it done a little less, but it's not too bad. It smells like lamb. It's pretty tender. It's still pretty flavorful. I think for somebody who is getting an introduction to lamb, this might be a good way to go. It's mild. It's not a very strong flavored lamb. The texture is nice. The flavor, while still kind of lamby, is pretty nice. I think this is pretty good. Now, we've had our sweet potatoes before. Let's try them again. Smells good. Smells like Thanksgiving. I know some of you don't like sweet potatoes, and I'm so sorry for you, but more for me. They're just so good. Now for our stuffed tomato. It did not burst in there. It looks, I know I just stabbed it, but here, I'll give you a little closer up look at it. Pretend it hasn't been stabbed right there, but I think it looks pretty good. Let's give it a try. If I were to make this today, I would expect that it would have some Parmesan or something in there, in the stuffing. Tomatoes and parm are a very good combination. We have our onions, our crumbs. Ooh, it smells nice. Probably very hot. That tastes pretty good. I think it's a kind of a fun, different side dish for this. So if you were having people over and this is your fancy meal, whatever you're used to during the rest of the week, that stuffed tomato with this lamb, I think, is a very just a fun, different, fancier type of option to have. I like it with it. Now, our salad is a little less exciting this time. Just a little bit of lettuce and French dressing. It smells really good. You know, sometimes simple is kind of perfect. There's nothing really competing in this salad with the other flavors. So we started off with the soup that really didn't have much flavor. Everything else that we had, the lamb, the tomato, the sweet potato, those had nice, strong flavors on their own. Now we're kind of evening it out again with our salad. There's nothing crazy going on here. The French dressing is pretty tasty. The lettuce is nice and crisp, refreshing, but there's no strong taste or anything like that. So I think it's kind of a nice break or cleanser before we get to the best part, of course, which is the dessert. Here we go with the little individual strawberry shortcake. Let's see. It smells perfect. I smell the strawberries most of all. Strawberry, a little piece of our buttered bottom biscuit, and cream, of course. Ooh, it smells good. That's great. I think the biscuits shortcake, I guess. The shortcake tastes a little bit sweet. I want to try that on its own without the strawberries and see if it actually does, or if it's the strawberries and sugar that are influencing my opinion on that. Let's try it. Yes, underneath the flavor of the butter, this is definitely sweeter than I expected it to be. Now, I should have expected it to be sweet. It has a good bit of sugar in it. But I think looking at the texture, I was expecting it to taste like just a regular old biscuit instead of kind of a sweet shortcake biscuit. This is great. This recipe, you know, I'm always concerned with the baking recipes that they're going to turn out terrible. I think this one turned out perfect together. I can see this being a big hit in the summertime. Overall, I think this menu was pretty great. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the starter, which was a disappointment because if we remember correctly, it was quite expensive. However, the rest of the meal was very tasty. I think things went well together. I think they complemented each other. I think there was a nice mix of things that were a little more neutral and things that packed a punch with flavor. I might give this a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. Nutrition-wise, also a pretty decent one this time. We had our lamb, our protein in our lamb. Our soup started out, now we didn't keep the protein in that soup, however, we have leftover protein for something else. We had several different types of vegetables, some nice healthy fats in those olives. In our dessert, we also had fruits. Our vegetables were a mix of cooked and of raw and all sorts of different colors. We had the pink radishes, we had the sweet potatoes, we had the tomatoes, we had the lettuce. Really, overall, I'm very happy with this one. Now, cost-wise, this one was a pretty expensive one. Our soup, that ossobuco, the veal knuckle, was the $50 when we had that shipped with our other veal. Our lamb chops, now it suggested 3 to a serving. There were 4 in a pack that I got from Aldi for $10, and I don't know if it was that size or not, but if that were the case for 6 people, we'd be looking at somewhere near $40 to $50 for that. So just in our meat, we're looking at almost close to $100 there. Total, we're looking at somewhere near $140 to $150 for this menu for 6 people. If you like what you saw today, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel so that you never miss another Sunday dinner. Join us next week, the start of June, where we try out a pressed chicken and a chocolate pie. See you then.